Hello everybody, Jardian here. Today I wanted to review some Wataji, or traditional Japanese straw sandals, that you may have seen me wearing in my last video called Physical Therapy. Now, these sandals are an item that I went from absolutely despising to being totally in love with, and it was really just that I didn't know how to tie them for a very long time. I've had these guys for a while now, feels like a year, and I kept trying to wear them, and it was always the most miserable experience possible. I would go up a hill, and they would try to fall off my feet constantly. And I just didn't know what was wrong. I figured it was a lack of space on the heel, as some other Wataji have. But no, I was being an idiot. There are 100 ways to tie them, and I know none of them. But now that I do know, I've been just absolutely in love with wearing these around. I'm the kind of guy who the minute spring hits, I'm in my flip-flops. If I can get away from shoes, I do. And these have basically replaced my flip-flops whenever I can. When I'm out in the woods, around the house, up at camp, anything like that. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about them and basically why I think they're so great. These sandals are from Bakezori on Etsy. He's a great source of traditional Japanese attire, and I've previously reviewed his hachigane, or the metal headband. I have a very high opinion of him and what he does, and I'm saying all that now because if you were to look him up after watching this, you would not be able to find him on Etsy. I want to talk about that more at the end if you'd like to stick around for it. So for me, the Wataji are the most iconic traditional Japanese footwear. I mean, it's my understanding that if you could go back in time, a lot of people would be wearing them. It was like very standard travel attire. Most like shops along the road would sell them along with hats. Just something very common for the time. So naturally, with my interest in historical ninjutsu and all kind of samurai stuff, I definitely wanted a pair. Of course, I have my ninja suit and my tabi boots, but over time I've been trying to build a more traditional set of attire, and this was a very big step in doing that. Now onto these sandals. They're made of jute rope and not rice straw, which is fine by me. I love jute. You can buy big spools of it, it's easy to work with, easy to source, so it lets them keep costs down. These Wataji cost only $20 plus some shipping depending where you live, and that is an absolute steal when you see what other people are selling Wataji for. There's somebody else on Etsy who sells paracord Wataji, but they sell for well over $100, which is an absolute scam. Like, that's made for consumers who are trying to get into the barefoot shoe market because they watched a few YouTube videos. When these are nice, natural feeling, and the price is honestly great considering the labor. From what I've seen, making Wataji isn't a very difficult thing, but it's time intensive and it is difficult to make them consistently as a product, so I think $20 is very respectable for this. Now, as for why someone may be interested in wearing these, besides historical interest, is that the barefoot shoe fad does have some merits. Now, I'm not going to cover all of that here, you can go down that rabbit hole whenever you please. But the things I agree with are that modern shoes generally crush our toes and condition us to walk wrong. I feel pretty strongly about this, as I have to wear double wide shoes, or the widest they offer, just because I have a pinky bone that sticks out, and both of my pinkies are kind of crushed in from wearing normal shoes growing up. I didn't think about it and realize that extra wide shoes were a thing until I was already an adult. And typically my answer is just to wear flip-flops all the time. I mean, you don't need to buy these new brand name barefoot shoes just to enjoy the benefits, which is one of my biggest problems with the whole fad. But flip-flops aren't a perfect answer either. Mine do have a slight ridge to help support the arc of the foot, and you do have to kind of pinch with your toes when you're walking through like mountainous terrain and stuff, as I often do. So that's also not quite walking naturally. The Wataji fixes everything, as it is secured in multiple ways around your foot, and I don't have to pinch or put any weight down on my feet that isn't necessary. And I'll also say that my tabi boots are the same. They have a thin, flat, flexible sole, and they give me plenty of toe space, so that's definitely a nice winter option. But generally, I do really love these Wataji as a natural thing that I can replace my flip-flops with. Just let me walk totally naturally. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to pinch my toes or feel like my toes are getting crushed. They weigh almost nothing. They fit super easily inside any pack because they're so thin and flexible. Generally, I'm just very happy to have them. I do want to bring up that my Wataji are not standard. Mine have extra space to cover the toe, while traditionally your toes would hang off. The strap would be right at the front of the sandal. Now, Bakezori did this request at no extra cost, which is really cool of him, considering he might have had to alter a loom or something. And I'm really grateful, as the toe cover makes the Wataji perform a lot better on the soil I walk on. Hopefully you can see it is an extremely rocky soil, so getting poked a bit less in the foot always helps. A big concern many people may have is durability. Now, traditionally, Wataji would have been replaced pretty often as they wore out, and these are no exception, although I think they perform a lot better than most would expect. I mean, it's not going to compare to a modern flip-flop. I've had my flip-flops for over 6 years now, wearing them constantly, but this jute really holds up better than I thought, and I mean, I'm putting it through the ringer as far as walking up and down hills constantly, on logs, on rocks, and I've had little to no fraying on the bottom. I've had some fraying on the straps you tie, but that's very easy to fix. You can always cut them a bit shorter, add a bit of jute, anything. Overall, I would say the durability is excellent for what they are. It also depends what you walk on. If you're going to jog up an asphalt road, then I wouldn't expect them to last, even less so if you're going to run on gravel. But if you're going to take them to the park or walk along the grass, anything like that, they're going to last you a very long time. I think the biggest thing I wanted to cover in this review was the mobility that these Wataji will give you. Now, they're not going to make you a super shinobi Superman. Like my tabby boots really do help me with running and climbing, but not these Wataji. However, they are much better than you might expect. Now, when I first got them and didn't know how to tie them, I had to tie them so tight and walk like a mummy because I just didn't want them falling off. But now that I tie them properly, you can really adjust the tightness to whatever you need to do. If you're going to go for a casual walk around the house or to a park, you can leave them tied relatively loosely and they'll stay on no problem. But if you're going to be running or going up some steep hills or logs, you can always take a moment, stop, tighten them up, and really everything's great. I have a lot of footage in the back. It's just me walking on various things. I got some running, some jumping, and hopefully it gives you a good idea that these really don't limit you as much as you might expect. I think that's just about everything I wanted to cover in this review. There are a few other quirks that you may learn when you get these. For example, if you get them wet, you're in for a surprise when the rope takes up a lot of water and solidifies. It'll contract on your feet very tightly, so you need to stop and adjust the straps. And they become so loud you can drop them and it sounds like a brick. But generally, I think I've covered most of the stuff you could expect if you were to get these.